Oh, last time? Okay, so it's better. Oh. I don't know. Maybe I didn't put it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. But the code should be self-explanatory, right? Should we? No. Yes. Okay. So welcome to the third and last week of NodeJS. It's a bit sad. Yeah. Don't cry. That's fine. Yes. Last week we learned a bit about routing and we went deep into it. Today is the last time we will make sense of all things together. So can you guess what we are missing? Or it's like it's already here? No, let's just put it back. So what are we missing? We know how to start a server. We know how to handle routing. What is missing to have a good web server? What are you missing to build the next Facebook? Database, yes. So yes, exactly. So now you are able to handle requests. You are able to do something. But what is missing is interacting with database, because if you want to build a system for users or build a system for to-do list or for contacts or for social media, you need to store the data somewhere, and that you don't lose it when you restart the server and connect to it and do a lot of operations there. And that's what we will learn today. So yes, so first, like, yes, here's the agenda for today. We'll just also go through a quick revision of the last week and what we have learned. We will learn a bunch of concepts today, like about RESTful API, what RESTful means, about database interaction, Postman again, and then we'll have like a lot of exercises along the way. But yes, okay, so let's just go through what we talked about last week. Can someone explain to me in an easy way what routing is? Yeah, a specific address for the server to handle. So what will happen if you hit an address that the server doesn't know how to handle? Yep. And what is routing module? Like, remember last time we talked about express to routing. And why would you use that? And what is the benefit of doing that? Yes. So if you have an error about the user, then you know where to go. Exactly. It will be about the user. Yes. Instead of having one file with 2,000 or 3,000 lines that you don't really know where the problem is. When you split it into smaller responsible things, then, for example, if you have users, you have something to handle like email, something to handle like posts. Then if you have problem in one of them, you know where to go instead of having all of them in one file. And then we talked about query params. And do you know what that is? Address. Yeah. And actually, remember you showed me like a very good example last week. Can you explain it to all of us again? I think when you opened Zalando and you showed me something there, and you showed me last time when you opened Zalando and tried to do a lot of things, and you said like the params make sense because you can choose the range and the things there, right? If you remember? No. When you opened Zalando and then you were able to choose like the price range or like the product category and so on, and you were able to see it in the query params. Yes. Yeah, yes. Yes, exactly. So it was like, do you remember enough to explain to them, or I can? Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good example, by the way. Yes. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but it's like, yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. If you want a blue shirt or like a green shirt, and then you just be able to have as query parameters. Yes, exactly. And then params is when you want to query specific things. For example, if you want the user of ID1, then you put it make as part of the route. You also remember the middleware concept. Yes, we didn't go that deep into it, but you remember why do we need it? You remember we had this example about is authenticated and yeah. Yes, exactly. So if you want to check the authentication of the code, you would leave it in this middleware before you hit the handler. And then you keep the code about the handler or like the when you call slash something clean only for this logic, and then the middleware will handle it for everything. Do you also remember actually also the order? So if you define the same method 2 times, which one will be picked? The first one. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So like only define it one for the same verb. And then we also talked about Postman. And I don't know if you got to exercise it last time. Did you get time to use it? No. But do you remember what is the benefit of using Postman instead of just hitting the URL in the browser? Yes, do a lot of things and add headers and add body and so on. I think we'll go even deeper this time about this. All right. So do you have anything you want to ask about the last week before we move on? Yeah, okay. So we are going to talk about RESTful API. So the name might sound a bit weird or like a bit complicated, but REST, the first 4 letters, is like stands for representational state transfer. And I know that this doesn't explain it any better than REST. So if we go a bit here, like RESTful is an interface that 2 computer systems use to exchange information securely over the internet. Most business applications have to communicate with each other over third-party routing refers to application endpoint, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a bit complicated to explain, and that's like the, but basically what that is it's the protocol is like convention that you use to communicate between the client and the server. You remember that we talked first time about what client and server is, and each of them has a responsibility. So the client, so like representation state. So like, for example, if I ask, give me all the users, what do I expect as a client? If I ask the server to give me all the users, what do you expect? Yes, with what? With the users. So if you give me all the posts or you give me all like tweets, is this what I asked for? Because it's called users. Users is the state. So when I ask for the state of the users, then I get users back. And then also is like respecting the state we talked about last time when I call delete user 1. Then I expect the state of this user to be deleted, not updated. So this is kind of the state. So like I have a state, I manage it, and then there's a convention between the user and the client to deal with that. So this is what basically all these complicated things mean. And then, of course, so like you respect the things, you respect the protocol, you respect the verbs, you respect, so for example, if I say post user, then the user is saved to the database or to somewhere, right? So you remember the status codes we got last time, like I expect to get 201, which mean like 200, 300, 400, and so on. 201 means created. So that's the good way. But if I ask save, and then I get back 500 or 400, even though it's saved, this is confusing, right? So just like expecting the state of what I am creating or what I'm doing. That is basically it. It's just, as I said, also you can do without it, but that's what the convention is. And if you actually read a lot of job posting on the internet about Node.js and backend, you will find people mentioning RESTful API, because that's like what people expect you to know or to do. So like we have a resource, we have a client, we have a server. A resource is what you're asking the state of. Yes. Okay. What is CRUD? CRUD. Yes, but CRUD is more description of the operation. It's like the CRUD. REST is a CRUD, yes. But CRUD is, yeah, create, read, update, delete. But REST is more things than CRUD, because you can do more operations of the service, but you expect to respect some kind of contract. But actually, yes, CRUD, I actually forgot to include in the slides, but it's also part of the story. You did the preparation. Okay. CRUD. So RESTful. Okay. So RESTful means respecting the representation of the object between the client and the server. So we have three things here: client and a server. Those are the two, and the resource. You know the client and the server, right? And then the resource is what the client is asking the server for. So if I'm asking this, if the client is asking the server to give me the users, users are the resource. So if I'm asking you for users, then I don't expect you to give me bank accounts. I expect to give me users back. If I'm asking you to delete user, then I expect you to delete the user, not to keep it. So respecting the resource that I'm asking for or commanding you to do. Does that make sense? The server to respect that and delete it. Well, you can, but it's what is expected from the server. Like you have a contract, you define what is expected. Because I'm asking you to update the state. The state is like how the user is saved in the server. And then I'm asking you to change the state. So when I'm asking you to do this, then you are doing it. If I'm asking you to give me an image or like a copy of the state, then you are expected to return me the state of what I've asked you for. Yes, another example is if I ask you to give me a movie, and then you return me a user, is this what I expect? It's not the same resource. But that's the definition of the API. That's the concept that you would use. It's not a framework, it's nothing, it's just a concept that you need to know how it works. Yeah, that describes this behavior. All right, so it's the demo time. So actually, I think demo here, what I would basically do is, yes. Is it big enough? Yes, okay. So then let me also sit here and then. So as I mentioned, like with the CRUD operations, you have 4 operations, I think, as Nikita mentioned. So what are they? CRUD, create, read, update, delete. So do you remember which HTTP verb maps to each one of them? So when I ask for create, which HTTP verb? Is it like post, pod, delete, patch, whatever? When I ask for create, which one I would use? Post, read, update, put, delete, or patch. It depends on, yeah. Delete, delete. So let's start, because we will be going to interact with the HTTP anyway. Let's create a project. So I want to create a folder. What can I do to create a folder? mkdir, yes. So mkdir, let's call it REST. And then let's go to REST. So I have REST here. Do you remember how to create an NPM project? NPM init. And if I want to choose everything, -y. Yeah, okay. Then you can see I have a package here, the JSON, right? What do I want to install to start my web server? Express. Yes. And I have Node already globally, so npm i-save express. And then let's do enter. So yes, you can see here in the dependencies, I have Express. It's also here in the node modules. So, sorry? Yeah, okay. And then let's start server.js. So then if you can help me, so like, how can I start the web server? Yes, but how can I start the code of that? Const express equal to express, and then const require. Oh, inside the require or express? Yeah, okay. And then if I want to declare a port number, const port equal to 3000. And then if I want to listen on this port, what I do? Listen, port, and then, yeah, callback function, console log, listening on port, and then I have the port number. Cool. Then if I want to start the server, what do I do? Or what if I want to use Nodeman? Nodeman server.js. Okay, this is one way. Actually, I didn't explain also before this way. So right now you have also here in the package.json, you have a section called scripts where you can define your own custom scripts. So for example, I can declare here a new script called run, which would be basically Nodeman server.js. So if I go here and say npm run, yes, exactly, npm run. What am I missing? npm run. Yeah, okay. Yes, so let's call it like start, just to make it less confusing. npm run start. So that would start the server. And as you mentioned, it's a shortcut. It's just like something, so I don't have to remind everyone to do it all the time. It's one command extra, and then people can do it. And it can be more complicated with tests when you have a test framework and so on. So you can still type Nodeman, or you can do it yourself. Here, it's up to you. But I think when you go to the React class, you'll have scripts because the command you are running is more complicated with a lot of things. So it's just faster to do it this way. But we basically have the server running, right? So how can we verify? So localhost 3000, and that at least means the server is running, right? Where is the thing? Yeah, okay. So what if I want the server to listen on the main page here? How can I return something different than this one? Yes, app.get, then slash, then request response. Do you remember, like, if request and response here, like these things are hard-coded, or I can name them anything? You can change. Okay, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a variable or reference that you can do. So rest dot, because some examples on the internet, they would call this request, and response. But it's too long for me, so I just like to keep it short. And yeah, rest dot. And then what if I want to send JSON? What do I do? No, if I want to send JSON, if I want to tell JSON, yeah. So then message hi. So if I save and then restart here, it's hi. But if I go here, it's nothing. There is another thing I haven't also showed you before. If you do app.get, and then you add a star here, and then request response, then let's say rest.json name foo. So that if you go here, so this means the star here, anything that you haven't handled here, it will be catched by this one. It will just match everything. Like star means like anything. So like this called this random thing, it will just be this. And if I comment this out and I refresh, refresh, it will say I cannot get. Yeah, 404. Yes, exactly. So that's one thing I think I just want to show to you. But right now we learned about get. So let's say we want to build an API for what? Let me actually check the exercise so we can do something different. The live coding. Okay, let's do a to-do app, which I guess you have learned about a bit in the database section, right? So now I want, what is better for me if I want to create a router for the to-do? Is it better to write it here in the server.js or create a separate file for it? Why? Yeah, exactly. So how can I do that? So I go here, I create a new file called to-do.js. Yes. Express, require, express. And then how can I create a router? Yes. So let's call it like to-do router equal to express dot router. And then I want to export it. So it's module dot exports the to-do router. Right? So right now let's try to catch anything. Like we don't have any handlers for to-do. So let's do the one that can handle anything. So to-do router dot get. So what is the one I showed you that can handle anything? Is the star, just as a start. Yes, let's finish this and then go back to the main server. So if I want, yeah, if I add here this star, as I showed you earlier, request response, and then rest.json key or something. So this doesn't work, right? This will not work. We are sure about that. So like to do or like to do is nothing because the application doesn't know about it, right? Because it's only written here, but we haven't used it in the server. Then we go here. We want to import the file. How can we import the to-do router? Const to-do router equal to require. Yeah. Wait, sir, can I hear something from the other side? Yes. What do I do to? Yes, can you tell me? So it's require all the side. Yes, anyone. So require and then to do. Yes. Then will it work? No. Yes. How can I use it? Then yes. To do, then to do router. Okay. This would work. Something cool. Okay, cool. So then it's because it's anything, I will keep getting this because the star matches anything under that. But if I go to another route, let's call it like foo, then I will not get it because the star only handle anything under to do. So why I get this? Okay. So let's clean up this one. Now we know that the router works. Let's clean this up. Let me zoom a bit more. Yeah. We're not converting it. We are sending the response back and telling the client that what I'm sending you is JSON. Because if I come here, I'm not converting it. I'm sending a response back, and I'm telling the client that what I'm sending is JSON. It's telling the client that I'm giving you a JSON back. Because you can also send and send JSON, but then the client will think that what you're sending is text. So you're using this type to tell the client that what you're sending is JSON. Yeah. Yes, exactly. But what you indicate is, as we talked about, RESTful for part of the contract. So you're sending back a JSON, so it's better to tell the client what to expect. because they're in a bit more complex situations, you can return either JSON or HTML or something else. So how would the client know which type to handle? So it's by doing this way. So JSON, but then let's clean up this one for now. And then we talked about the CRUD operations, right? Let's just make a placeholder for each of these CRUD operations. So to do router, so first CRUD operation is C as create. So create represents which HTTP post. Yes. And then which route slash. Yeah. So will slash here be localhost 3000 slash. Wait, which one will this be? The post slash here. To do. So it will be to do slash, right? Cool. So then post, then what will I get? Request, response, then enter. We are in to do the JS. So just we will like to do fill the code implementation. And then we will just return response to JSON or even text for now. Do it later. Right? So if I go to the browser and I call to do now without the S, then the browser will say, I cannot get to do. Do you know why? I know you know. Do you know why? No, use is there. It cannot what? Just focus on this word. Cannot. It can just. What is the word? What is the verb here? And what did we tell the server to handle? So why it cannot read it? Because it doesn't know about it. So post you cannot use from the browser mostly. You can use it if you're using React or JavaScript, but if you are hitting the address, you cannot use post. So we will have to use Postman because if you remember Postman from last time, yes, Postman can do a lot of things. One of them is the header. It's also fine to ask questions because like if you don't ask, you will never know like what's right. It's totally fine if you have something in your mind, just feel free to ask because that's why we are here, right? It's okay. So let's close all these. You are not seeing my super secret password. Yes. Let's don't save. So now we are starting. We press plus, so create a request. And then if I put my address here, let me move the zoom thing. And then I press send. It just returns nothing. Just returns an error. So like I cannot get to do, right? But because we are using get, so if you change it to post, then send, then do it later. So that's the right verb. Does make sense so far? So with using post, then you are getting here something called body. And body can be is like, okay, URL or row, and then we can choose here to be JSON. So if I go to body, choose row, and then JSON, then I can add JSON as an input here. So we're adding a to do. So what do we expect to pass? Name or title? Yes. Go for a run, and then let's call description, and then this blah blah, and then send. That doesn't really change anything in the response because we don't know how to handle it. But then how can we read it here? No. Yes, it's added to the request because the request is what we're sending from here. So if I go, let's try to just console.log here, request.body. The body is the body you are sending here. So if we click save and then press send, then you see it's undefined. That's because we have missed something. I might. Sorry, can you? No, okay. So now because we are missing something in Express. So if we go to Google here and then post in Express.js, and then you can see it's like routing and we have an article, we have a lot of things. It's not what we want to do. JSON parsing Express.js. I have the yes. That's what I'm trying to find. Yes. So if let me actually find the documentation for it. Express. So if we go to the API reference. Yes. So this middleware is like JSON. So parses the body of the JSON that we are sending from the API and also URL encoded. So those two are required to parse anything we have. So this is a middleware that will read the request with the JSON data and then add it to us so we can read it. So if I do this and I then send again the request, I'm able to read here in the to-do request.body is the data is sent back. So you don't have to worry about this too much. You just like use it for now as like JSON. It will just include the request body into here to make it accessible for me. So requested bodies, like, is it clear so far? Yes, no. So I actually want to find this in Google URL encoded Express.js. Let's see if we have a description for it. Yes. And let's see also this one. So we have an article here explaining them. So like Express to JSON are helpful Express middleware to parse function and let parse ongoing. Let's see in the Express.js documentation if there is anything about this. Okay, this is the one. Yes, okay. So it's part of these documentation as well. So like the body parser and oh no, okay. These also the old way of doing it. Okay, never mind. So what you basically do here is that the Express framework, when you pass this body here, it will make it accessible. It will convert it into JSON and then make it accessible to you here. Otherwise, it will be parsed as text somewhere else, and that would be confusing. So just know that when you use this plugin, you will be able to access what user sends in the requested body, just like similar to requested params. And you remember the last time also we had the what did we had last time with the request.params? We also had other things, right? When you do this request.params, and also we had request.query, right? So those two things where when you are using get, while this one request.body is when you using post, so you can read the data. Yeah, and put in all of the things that requires data modification. But do you know actually why we cannot use here requested params or query params? Imagine if you want to create a user and password, and then you add the password in the address. So it will be something like to do, and then let's comment this out. Username equal foo, and password equal bar. It's insecure, and anyone can go and read it and know your password, right? And if you have something is tracking the traffic on your network or somewhere, you can just read the password or go to your history and see what your password is. And that's not how it works, right? You have a form, you fill your data, and then you press the button, and then the password is saved. And that's because they're using request.body similar to here. So the password is only accessible when you are sending this request. So yes, let's try. Let's add password here. 1, 2, 3, and then add a comma here. Then press send. So then I have the password here. But do I have it in the address here somewhere? No, so nobody can track it. It's only when you send the request. Does make sense? So right now, when I have this body, I can do something with it. We can use it and save it into the database in the future, which we will learn a bit later. But right now, this is good for the first CRUD operation, which is create. How do you read? There are 2 ways to read, right? You can read everything or one specific thing. Go ahead. And yeah. Yes. So we are going to learn in the class in a little bit how we save it. So I'm just showing you how do you access this data in the server, and then later we will learn how to take this data and save it into the database. Yeah, you can only see it here because you're sending it, and then you can see it in the server. Yes. So my idea about this class, or how we will spend this couple of hours, like start showing you how to create like get, post, delete, and so on without making the database. Then we will learn about the database, and then we will fix this and write it here. So then I don't teach you the 2 things at the same time. Right? So like, yeah, exactly. So it's like steps. So right now, like we have a to-do. So when we learn the database, we will go back and then just fix this to do and write the implementation. But we now know what post means and how to access the data. So we have one part, and then the other parts we will fill later. Yeah. No, it's the client. So Postman here is the client, is the one that, for example, Postman is one way of doing the client, but you can also have a React or front-end application where you have the form, where you have like fields, and then when you press post, then you send the data back to the server, and then it's accessible to the server. But it's just one way to replace the JavaScript in the front end for now, because then we can focus on the back end. But in the future, you will learn how to fill this data from your JavaScript in the front end. You can imagine this as a text box where the user will type and press the button, which is the send button. Yes. Server works. Exactly. Just because we don't want to learn about how to write this in the front end and the back end. We just focus on the back end, and then you will learn the front end in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we will save it in the database later today, but how the user submits it, that you will learn in the future. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that makes that exactly the same. So we are just saving our time here and making the JSON input here, but it can be anything. Now I am the user, or you are the user, but you can make it whatever. If I change this to get, but when you see here, I cannot get because the server doesn't know about it yet. Yeah, because it's just a client. It can be just like the browser. And I will show you now. So now we have done the first part of the CRUD operation, which is the C. Now we want to do the second part, R, which R means read. There are two ways to read, right? You can read everything or read something specific. So let's start with reading everything. How can I do that? Let's create a new one. To do router dot get. Then if I want to read everything, slash, then request response and something. As you see, I am using the same handler here, but I'm not using the same verb. And that is RESTful. That's acceptable. That's the way how RESTful API works, because we are still working about changing the same resource, which is a to-do. Because you are choosing here which verb, and then each verb corresponds to the handler that we are handling here. So if I go to here, then let's also add a to-do. Fill this code implementation later. Okay. And then let's do response to JSON and then empty array. That is fine for now. So then we save, we restart the server, and then we now can call get, right? So what did we get last time? Cannot get. If I press here, empty array. If I copy the exact same thing and I go to my browser and then paste, I will also get the empty array. So it's the same. Just the Postman here is just another way of calling it, another client. Okay, so now let's say we have handled this one way, get. How can I get one user? You remember params, query params, and all these. So if I go here, yes. Yeah, or this is to do. Let's call it ID or to do ID or anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's call it to do ID. And then how can I read this one? To do ID equal to rec dot query. If I add like question mark something params dot to do ID. Or it's like just because I named it here to do ID, it can be whatever. But do you remember what was the problem with this last time? Exactly. So to do ID here is string, but what I want it to be number. So how can I do that? Parse bars int, and then open a curly brace and braces and close it. Do you remember there was an even easier way? Just plus before it. But either way is fine. I think it's like, yeah. And then if we do it here, let's just return an object with ID, this to do. And then also we have a to do here to write the code later to fetch it from the database. So if I go here in Postman and go to do, then /1, then I get ID1. If I add 2, then I get ID2. If I copy the exact same and I go to my browser and type this, then I get the same. Just it even looks nicer here because the JSON is in a good way. Looks nicer, yeah. But it's just a placeholder. It doesn't do anything, right? So now we have done the two ways of doing the R. So the third one is U. U stands for update. So which verb are we going to use for update? Put. How we do that? To do router dot put. Then I can use the same thing again because it's another verb. And then request, response, and then how can I access? Because when I use bot, the user will send me some JSON, right? So how can I access it? We access it before in post. Yes, request.by, and then response.json, something. Yes, by the way, if we update it, if I want to say that it's accepted a request, status code, yeah, the status code number. I actually don't remember what's the status code number. Mozilla HTTP status code. Let's see. So we have the 200. Let's go here. So 200, okay. 21 created, accepted, no content. Which one suits the situation the most here? Accepted. So it's 202. So like you do 202, then JSON. Let's save this. And then let's go and pick put. But actually, yes. Should we do put this way, or should, when we update, do we update a specific user or do we update all users? Yeah. Yes, when you are making bigger changes, you use put. When you are making small changes, you use batch. That's correct, yes. And actually, there is a debate in this part, actually, for a lot of people, because some people say, okay, I want to use put for everything, or I can use batch for everything. And I think people will use put more, but what you're saying is the more RESTful way or the more standard way. And that's correct, yeah. So put here, I also don't want to put everything. I want to put for a specific user. So what I want to change also that I want to include the user ID. And then I would do it the same way. Let's also copy the to do. And then let's, yes. And then return the ID here just because I want to. And then save. Okay, so it says the ID is null. What? No. What did I do? Oh, you see what is wrong here? So what I'm trying to access here, and what is here? So what should I do to fix it? Here, yeah, one way or the other. I think I would rather go for this because it will be consistent across the two. Because I can also do it this way and then do it ID, but it's ID in one method, and to do ID in one method, it works, yes, but we better be consistent. So then just change it here and change it here. No, I want to edit a specific to do because the whole API here is about to dos. Yeah. So then let's try to get to do ID and then fix that. So now it's not null anymore. That works. So now let's consider put is fine. We can use batch also, but just to save some time, we'll use put to update. So now we are missing the last part, which is delete. So what verb can I use for delete? It's very hard, I know. Yes. App dot. Oh no, not app. Sorry. To do router dot delete. Then you also should we pass the user ID, the to do ID here or not? Yes, because we are not passing a body. It's just the ID that we want to delete. And then the same thing. Request, response, and then let's also log. Let's copy this one from here. Let's also log the to do ID, just because we want to. And what else? So let's return rest to JSON message deleted the user. And actually, let's see what status code we can return here. We can 200 is okay. 201 created, 202 accepted. Yeah, I think 200 is the most suited one for the situation. So dot status 200. And then let's go here and try. So if I choose delete, then send, then I get deleted the user. If you look here as well, in this part, you see that the HTTP status code returned. So as you see, the method, like the implementation here, is getting longer. And now if we were to put it here in the server, then it would have been so much things in one place. But now because of the to-do, it's shorter. Okay, is it clear so far? So C, create which verb we use? C, create is post. And then how do we access what the user sends? How do we access what user sends, sorry, in the post? Requested body to access the JSON we are passing back to the user. For read, which verb we use? Get. For update, put, patch. Yes. And then for delete, delete. Cool. Then we can move to the exercise. And actually, let me also copy this thing because it can be confusing for you. Yeah, sure. Can you repeat? You call me 2 times. You call the API 2 times. You call the API 2 times. So then you pass 2 once, and then you pass 3 on the other time. You can get creative. You can accept multiple ones, or you can call it bulk, and then you can pass multiple things and so on. But we're just starting in the basic way. Yeah. So let's go to the slide, show mode, and then. So the basic one, it will be quite similar to what I just did, but that will be for contacts. It's just changing to-dos to contacts. So you create a new folder with a new Node.js application. I want you to listen. That is wrong. I want you to listen on port 3000 here. And then, yes, and here's small things that you can use, app.use and app.listen, app.get. You don't have to write the database code, just create the router. Remember to create it in a separate file and then use it. It's a bonus if you also use Postman. Then we will be around. All right, let's give people 2 minutes more and then we will start.
What is the new year? What to do, and as well an example how to record how
All right, let's go. Let's start. Oops. Yeah, too loud. Oh.
maybe
Yes. So let's start. Let's move on to the next point. I think we are a bit over time. So the next thing is we want to talk about is environment variables. So environment variables are variables that can be changed in your application without you changing code. So like, yeah, environment variables are variables that are set outside of the program, often through the cloud provider or an operating system. And yes, so what this means. So basically, if you see in our server, we always said that the environment variable is set to, the port variable is set to 3000, right? But what if you want to deploy this code, or like deploy mean you want to publish it in the internet? in some website or in GitHub or somewhere, and then make people able to access it. Then maybe the website, the port 3000 is not available. You want to use another port. And what if you want to, you are selling this application to someone, you want to get rich, and then you have one is using this application, and then like they have the port 3000 available, and another person have another port available. So then will you have to do changes in the code, change this, for example, to 6000, then make a commit and then give it to them. And then the other person, will you have to do like 7000 and then commit that and give it to them? Is this a convenient way? Yes, an unreliable way. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, let's get to the point. Yes, okay. So basically, we can replace this by something called process.env.port. So this basically is called an environment variable. So this, an environment variable we will set in the application. Oh, Renee, are we recording? Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Yes, process.env, this is like the environment variable, and port is what we are interested to read. So for example, now you can give it to A and B, and then they can set their own environment variables without you having to update your program. And that's a great way to change something dynamically without them knowing about your internals of your program. Oh, yes. Is it? Yes, or in general, because in the wild world, outside in the Wild West, it's not only the file. The file is an easy way for you in your local environment to do that. But you can also just set it as a, it can be something like, if you are in the terminal, you can do export my env equal to foo. And then you can come here and say my env. But .env is an easy way to do it, which we will go back to it later. But this one can be set independently, like your application doesn't have to know about it, but you can read it here. So in this way, and you will find a lot of examples in the internet with the port. It says like, okay, use this port or 3000. So this means if this port is set, use it. If it's not set, then use 3000. You can also say is like, okay, I want only to use 3000 and don't use other things. So this way, I don't have environment.port set, right? So what will my program read? So if I start the server, if I start the server node server.js, so my server is running on this port is 3000, right? Because this doesn't work. But now there is an easy way in NodeJS. From the example here, you can have a file called .env, and this .env where you store environment variables. So I have here a super secret password, and I have a super secret things that like I don't want anyone to see. And those ones can be set on the internet when you publish your application, and then you create a database, and then you pass this variable. So nobody can read it or nobody will know about it. It's instead of writing the thing in JavaScript, because then you can change it without having to update your application. So now let's say I want to set a port here. Port. And then it's called 3000. Or actually, let me copy this whole thing to the project we have. Because also what we want to do is, which project we were working on? I forgot. Yes, Rust. So now I have .env. I copied these things. Let's just comment these out for now. We'll come back to them later. Let's say I have port 3000. And then, or no, let's use something else to make it less confusing, 4000. And then I start my application. Still listening on port. That is not right. It's because to read this environment file, we need to use an NPM package. Because we need to teach our program how to read it, because this is like not a real environment variable, this is file. And do you remember what NPM package means? Can you say? Like someone else wrote some code to make our life easier, and then we use it. So there is an npm package called .env. Let's actually look for it. .env. And so I search for npm.env, the package name, and then I can see some description, read some description about this package. .env is a zero dependency module that loads environment variables from .env file into process.env, which is basically what we're looking for, right? Because we're not able to read this environment variable. Yeah. So right now we have instructions about how this environment works, right? So to install it, we have the instruction. We already familiar with this, right? So if I copy this here and then, oops, add it. So npm install.env, that install the package. We can verify in package.json that it is installed, right? That is good. So then what else can we do? It also recommended me to use create a .env file. We already have one. Let's remove the spaces because it doesn't like spaces with the example we have. And then how can I use it? The documentation also tells me how to use it. So our favorite statement require, and then .config. And then when we log process.env, then we will see what is in there. Is it good so far? I think nothing is fancy, just like loading the environment variables from there. So, and you also see here the description. As early as possible in your application. Because we have, I think I've seen some problems. I also used to do it myself when I was learning Node.js. You start the server, you do app.listen, then you do app.get, or you do the router. And then you cannot access it in Postman or in your browser because you need to consider the order of the things. So this also you need to see to add it here as soon as possible. So this means add it on top of your application. So actually, let's do one thing. Let me add it here, but let me comment it. And then let's go here, .log process.env. So we want to see what is included, right? So now we are not using .env. It's empty. It's commented out. And let's press enter. So I am having a lot of things. So port is not one of them. Yeah, I don't have port. I don't have port in this list. It's a lot of other things that I have in my machine. Let's also, just to make it clear, let me also add my name. Because you can have whatever variable you want. So if I go here, the node, let me try to search for my name. Not this. Okay, maybe my name is not the best thing, but this variable is not there. So if I go here and uncomment this one, and then NodeJS, oh, you see, what is the server port now? Is the one I have. So then if I want to change this to be 5,000, I don't have to change my code because my code reads from this. So I can just stop it and start it again. Okay, seems that this port is used. I remember our favorite port from last time is 1999, right? Yes, so let's try it. So if you see here, it's 1999. And then if I go to foo, I can see that my environment variable, Ahmed, is set to foo. So right now I can set values without touching my application. All right, so now we know that we can set things without having to touch the application. So like, yes, set the port, set environment variable. We know what the environment variable is, and then we can use it in our application. Does it make sense so far? And then you can use the description from .env for that. All right. Yes, yet another exercise, but that I expect it to be short. I will give you like 3 minutes to do it. So I want you, like in all of your application, you have your listening on port 3000, right? I want you to change it to read it from environment variable called process.env.port. Remember to use npm install-save.env and then create the .env file. 3 minutes starts counting, so let's go. So let's move to the next part because we are short on time today. So I think this is the main part of today, is the database interaction. So we will learn about something called Next.js, which is like a SQL query builder for JavaScript. What it does, provides an easy way to interface. It's like basically a library that allows you to use SQL from Node.js to do all the CRUD operations. CRUD stands for what? Yeah. Delete. And those you can do in database, right? So then let's do a demo about this Next.js. Let's get back here. Okay. So if I go to Docker, I have my SQL container running. Okay. And now, so I cheated a bit yesterday. So I was writing a demo for exercising for what I will show you today. So I have some stuff from last time. So I have in my .env multiple things. So I have the DB host, which is the database address, which is, I think, the one you did also when you connected your database to Visual Studio Code. 127.0.0.1, my database user is root. My database password is Bass. The database name I have is Happy Future Test, and the database port is 3306. I think you are all familiar with all this. So now we want to start using Next.js. So how can I do that? Let's go in NPM or stack or whatever. So like nnext.js start or something like that. Let's see the guide. So first thing is to do is npm install next save. So let's do that. And I want to use it with which database? So this library or package allows me to use multiple databases like Mongo or like, I don't know, SQLite or MySQL or something else. Which one we're interested in here? MySQL. I think 2 is like the better version of what they have. So let's install MySQL or MySQL. There's actually always a debate about how you pronounce it, MySQL or MySQL. Yes, I think there is. Yeah. It's so I've installed this as well. Now I have the two things. Okay, what is next? So now it asks me to do this. Let me go a bit back. So I can do it in main, but I would like to keep my program clean. So I'll create a new file called db database.js, and then I will do this. Do you actually think this is complex or an easy way to initialize an object or something? Because you are doing require, then you're opening something, and then you're closing something. Because this is equal to, for example, let's call this next.js, and then const db equal to next, and then opening it. It's just doing it in one line. So this is equal to this. Do you have any preference for how we should structure it? Is it like this way or this way? It's the same to me. Okay, if nobody cares, then like let's keep it. I would actually copy what I have here, just to save some time. So if you see here, what I'm doing is I'm setting some configuration. So here they added the password in the text. And you should never ever do that. I think it's good as an example, but it's a variable. So then you don't get to write it in your get history or in get, because you should not leak your password of the database. Because if someone got the password of your database, then they can do all crazy things with your data and remove the integrity because someone can change that. So right now we learned that environment variables are separate and can be changed. And then we are trying to read them here. So I'm using a client called MySQL2. I have these data, and then that creates the connection to my database. And then I am doing something to verify that the database connection works. It's nothing, it's like select version just to make sure that it returns something. Just like when you start a server, like when you start app.listen, you just say, I'm listening on port. Here, I'm just connecting to database and then exporting this. So this is basically my connection to the database. You don't have to think a lot about this. It's just importing the module and providing some configuration that you can use from the internet. And now I have my database connection open. That is the easy part, or the first part. So what do I need to do? So right now I have the to-do list that I need to fill, or I need to add things there. So how can I import the database here? Yeah, because next is what is here, but I have made some changes here and then I'm exporting it. I can also do it this way. I can also do this. That is totally fine. But I just want to have all this configuration about the database in a file, because if I have problem with it, I can just go and change it here and then keep my application a bit cleaner. So Next.js is here, but we are just exporting it to here. So let's start with the easy one. And also let's take advantage of the documentation. So we have a query builder that tells us what query we can use. So how would you, if you want to get all the rows from the to-dos table, how would you do that? Let's write the SQL query. Select star from table name, let's call it to-dos. And that's it, right? So let's try to do the same here. So next. Yeah, and I forgot also to show you the, I have a very simple like database schema here. It's like I have a Hacker Future table, Hacker Future schema or database. Then I have a to-dos table that has ID, title, description, user ID, and then the primary key is the ID, and that's it. And then I have insert statement that is also very simple. I'm inserting value and something into this database. Cool. So here, when I do this, I need to specify the table name. What is the table name we have specified here? To-dos. So let's go into to-dos. So then that actually should return me something. So let's try. Let's call it to-dos equal to await. Have you been introduced before to async await? Yes. So you know that is like we wait for the database to return the results and then we do it. So to be honest, I'm not sure if that would work. So let's just print it out for now. And then let me start the server. So now good thing is it showed me that it was able to query this and printed this information here. So that's good. Then let's try to go to here. And then let's get to do and then send. Well, I didn't get anything. What did I change? It's empty. Oh, because I'm listening on different port here. So it returned an empty data. But wow, it was like, yes, when I printed something, it printed that I have one item in the database with this data. So do you see here? This is what I printed, and that is what I got from the database. So like I was like, give me everything in the table called to-dos. And then I got all of them, and then I printed them here. Then also in the real life scenarios, I would usually try to select what I want to return to the user. Because what if I have a field called password? Do I want to return it? No, of course. Yes, so let's try to search for how to select fields. Select, there are multiple ways. So select something and something, and yes. Okay, let's try to use it. I'm not sure. Let's try to do select. We have multiple fields, but what are the fields that we're interested in the most here? Let's say that they're the first three fields. ID and title. Yes. Okay, let's ID and title. Then ID. I think I can select the second item, but let's see. Title. And then save. Then let's start. And then select. Okay, that worked. So now I am able to select what I'm returning to the user. So that is basically equivalent to, do you know what is the SQL statement representing this one? Select ID, title from to-dos. Yes, it's very simple. Like, it's just in a JavaScript way. So here, go from to-dos table, select ID and title. I think this is a good enough result that we can return to the user, so we can return it here. So let's try. Oh, it's already running. So, okay, I got results back. So the first thing works. That's great. Then let's try to see how we can save data to the database. So in the requested body, I expect to get something. So let's say post. If I showed you that the database has ID, title, description, user ID, and created date. And the created date has a default of the current timestamp. So what do I want to save in the database? No, the ID, considering that the ID is auto-generated by the database. Yes. And even the user ID is optional, right? I can, but let's say, okay, title, description, and user ID. So let's go here. We have title. What is the one in the go for a walk? Okay, go for a run. This is different enough. Description, something. And then what is the third field? No, it was the user ID. Then, okay. And then let's add, the user ID is an integer, so let's just 5. I think ideally you would have like another table for user and make a relationship and so on, but just for simplicity, it's just an ID here. So now this is post. So let's send. We have a to do it later. But we at least got the data. Then let's go to the documentation and see insert. Okay, so I actually have an insert statement. Insert, let's see the documentation. Insert, create an insert query taking either hash or properties or inserted in the row. So it's basically inserting something and then that's it. If it works, it works. So let's go. So what should I start with here? Next. What is the table name? To-dos. And then dot insert. Can I just pass the whole requested body? Yes, because it has the data I want. So ideally, in the real world scenarios, you would need to do some kind of cleaning of the data, make sure that someone is not adding something called SQL injection. So someone can come and say, the insert statement is like this, it's similar to the one here. So like insert into something to do the values, and then you add the values, right? Someone can hack into this and do something like this. Let's copy this line. So SQL injection is to do something like this, and then semicolon, select, or like drop table. And then someone just deleted your table from a request. You probably should clean this up and make sure you are doing it, but and you will find a lot of mentions about this in the internet. It's called SQL injection. You can drop the table, you can even like update admin password or do a lot of crazy stuff from there. Yes, you should not do this, of course, but I guess there's also the security people, they get paid a lot by exploring these kind of things. but it's not our topic for now. So let's then go back here. So now we assume that we trust what the user sends. We should not trust it in real life, but let's say so. And then await, and await is complaining. Why? Because what I'm missing here. Try is one thing, but it's missing another thing. Async. Should I put it here? Before, yes. You're still awake, that's good. And then let's send them. So if I save this data in the database, what should I return to the user? Which status code? Yes. I actually, let's see. 200, 201, 202. Created 201. Yes. 201 and send or JSON message done. It's good enough message for me. So post and then let's send it. Done. That worked. How can we verify? We have also implemented the get method, right? So if I call get, I expect to get my second, I expect to get two. The one I had before and the one I just inserted. Okay, so I have two. That's good. Then I would actually like to go for the delete. Let's see how we can delete. Let's search in the documentation. Del. So, yes, but how can we decide we don't want to delete everything, obviously, right? Yes. Let's do the query, actually. The SQL query, how would you do it? Delete from to-dos. If you don't add the where, then you delete everything. I actually did it in my first job. That's why I will never forget it. So where to the to-do ID, right? So let's try to do it as a SQL statement here. So next, to-dos dot where. We do the where first, and then ID equal, I think. Oh, ID the value. Okay. I trust you. So, and then dot delete. Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. So then we are missing the await, the sync, and that should work, right? So let's go and delete the user we just added, 2, 3. And then which verb should I choose? Delete. Then send. It's, yes, let's get without this thing. And then send. What? Oh, okay. 2. We should handle that actually because it just worked. User 2. Then let's go get. Is not found or it doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah. Then go. We have 1. So the deletion works. Yes, but I would actually. How should we handle this case where I try to delete something that doesn't exist and the API was just like idiots? It was like, yes, sure, I will delete it. And yes, yes. So actually, let's try to do next JS delete check if exists. Let's see if someone why just If the user exists, do that. Yeah, that might work. Yeah. If you're checking if the user exists before doing an operation. Yeah, that's one way to do it. So you're saying const response? Is this what you're saying, or we can try actually? I don't know. Let's see what will we get. Why it's complaining? Oh, yeah. Query response. And then let's try to delete something that doesn't exist. Okay, 0. And I think 0 here means that 0 rows were affected, so the users don't exist. So yes. Yes, so actually one of the things also I didn't show you about Postman is you can go to the history and see the operations you have done. So I want to recreate this user to delete it again. So I will press here, means it's created. Then I can go back in history and then get everything. So I have you see it's ID here, 3. We remember in the database, we said that everything is incremental. So if you delete something in the middle or before, we don't reuse it. Because you can assume it's the same user, the same thing, but it's not the same. Yeah, no, it's like, no, it's 1 after, because the previous ID was 2. So it's always the last ID plus 1. So the last ID we used was 2. Yes. It's stored, exactly. It still knows about it. Exactly. There will be no 2. Yeah. Yes. So then let's go again and delete user. So you remember when we tried to delete 6, we got 0 as a response here, right? So let's try to delete user 3. We know it exists. So if I press send, it's deleted. And what do they get? 1. So what I can do is f query response equal to 0. Then we can return an error. Press dot. Let's see a good status code for this. Client error. No, 404. I think it's 404 because not found, or 406 not acceptable. Let's call it 404 for now. Status 404, and then JSON message. You try to delete user who doesn't exist. Yes. Yeah, 0 means that the database didn't found any rows with this thing. It can be 1, it can be even 10. For example, if you try to query that, if you have 10 to-do items and you try to delete without this where statement, then you delete all of them. So then the query result here will be 10 because it's all of the items. Yes, exactly. It's called rows affected. So how many rows and how many lines they have changed. So if we don't, that was created. Yes, exactly. No, but with the deletion. Yeah, with the deletion. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the affected rows. Yes. Is clear, Anton? Or yeah, cool. So now if it's 0, then we return this message. If the user exists, then we will return another message. And either way, let's just make the print here. So now if I delete user number 3, then I get, but if I try to create another one, and then let's try to get again. So the user 4, or sorry, the to do 4, if I try to do 4, then I get deleted the user. If I try to delete it again, then I get another error message. That's clear? So I think I showed somehow enough examples to get started with the exercise. So Yes, it's like, oh, exercises again. So now what I want you to do is just to go through the endpoints you have and then write the SQL for them. Let me also share with you the database thing I did. Let's use the database of JS. I'll just share it in the Slack channel, and that you can reuse. And that should make it easier. And then also, actually, let me copy this one as well. And remember, don't use my super secret password here, right? Yes. It's All right. So, all right. So I think we are over time. So please continue doing this exercise at home and then share if you have any problems on Slack. So we have learned today about just database interaction, environment variables, and routing, and all of the nice things. I actually don't remember all of them. Yes. So, and RESTful and so on. So yes, I think, do you have anything that I would like to talk about before we conclude the session? No questions? Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yes. Yeah. I think it's, yeah, I can share them. I just like made them, but they're basically just the same as the lesson plan we have on GitHub. Yeah, sure. I didn't make the I downloaded the template, but yes. Yes, I'm not taking the credit. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sure. I can do that. Yes, sure. I can do that. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, because I made, yeah. Yes. I'll do that. Yes. Yes, but otherwise, yes, please feel free to make me on Slack or write on Slack if you have any questions about this. I know it's not easy to grasp from the first time, but you just like need some iteration. And yeah, then good luck with React the next week. But no.